I love growing mulberries. I have several mature trees here at the nursery. Mulberries grow extremely well here in our temperate climate in northwestern Washington, but with that comes some challenges. They grow extremely quickly, putting on long lengths of growth. You can see here's just one season of growth so far, and we're in beginning of July. And so what that means is that if you're not careful and on it with training these trees from the beginning as saplings, they're going to develop a really challenging growth pattern, and they're going to end up breaking branches just like we see here. This tree here had many long shoots last year that I had to prune off because they were breaking branches left and right from the fruit load and just the weight of the branches. And so the first mistake I made from growing mulberries is not paying attention to how they were growing throughout the season and making appropriate pruning cuts as necessary to keep it trained in a strong growth pattern. And so if you don't pay attention to your tree throughout the season, you can have to end up doing something like this where you have a branch going and drooping way over a fence line. Now, it's going to make the fruit easier to access, but this is not a sustainable growth pattern for this tree, and I'm going to have to cut this branch at the end of the season because this is not the growth pattern that I want for this tree. The second mistake to avoid with growing mulberries is not managing the height of the tree from the beginning as well. So you can see this tree right here is very tall. The fruits are going to be hard for me to access without a ladder, and they're going to be over ripened. Now I could manage the fruit by putting a tarp down and shaking the tree, but there are easier ways to manage mulberries and grow them in a way that's easier to harvest without a ladder, without having to put down a tarp on all these things. And so that was one of my mistakes with this tree, is just letting it go. Let's go take a look at a mulberry tree that I have that is growing in just the right way at the moment. So here's a mulberry tree growing in an ideal way. This is an Illinois everbearing, and by the way, the other two we were looking at was a Pakistan mulberry and another Illinois everbearing mulberry. You can see here I'm keeping it relatively short and compact. This is a younger tree compared to the other two, but I'm going to be keeping it pretty much within arm's length here to be able to harvest. And so this is ideal. And this is actually how it's going to be able to reach the fruit relatively easily. So what are some alternatives to managing the growth of the mulberries other than just top working the plant? Which can be pruning. It takes some skill and some insight as to how the plant grows. But I'd like to present the idea of coppicing for mulberry management. If you're not familiar with coppicing is actually the act of cutting a tree down towards the base of the trunk, and this works for certain species of trees: chestnuts, mulberries, hazelnuts, willows, and many other species of trees. And the tree's response to that cut, which you'll make in the fall time, or a very late winter, just beginning of spring, the response of the tree is going to be to shoot up many long shoots, upon which the tree will flower and fruit, which will make it much manageable. But it'll look less like a tree and more like a big shrub. But that is a really valid way to manage mulberries as well. And so I encourage you to go ahead and look up coppice management, the COPPICE management, for some ideas there. Well, those were two things to avoid with growing mulberries. I really hope that helped you out and you can avoid those mistakes.